And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Alobar Jones from Australia. He's an author and one of the top 10 exorcists in the world. He teaches astral projection to mastery, and he is the founder and leader of the EarthGuard Astral Projection Group. Alobar, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Well, Alobar, how did you get into astral projection in the first place?
In one word, the answer was desperation. I grew up, I was never into mysticism. Nobody in my family was into mysticism. Back in the day, I remember shirt fronting a hippie, because he was talking too much mystic mumbo jumbo. And, I really wasn't into it until I needed it. And, the story doesn't make sense until you include Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Unfortunately, I had to get sober. It was by far and away the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I worked so hard in that group that they made me secretary of the board where I was living in Perth. And the beautiful, and I'd go to the meetings and I'd hear everybody talking, and they're all talking from the same mindset. They've all got the same thing going on. They all end up in different situations, but they've all got the same thing, and you can almost outline the features of it. You say these are the symptoms, these are the mindsets, these are the attitudes that you'll get as an alcoholic. It's kind of a given. And so, it took me about 2.5, 3 years before I got my marbles back, before I could really trust what the decisions I was making to be good decisions. It was a very difficult time. But I did the 12 steps. I did them 3 times in 1 year. And I did step 4, which is like a confession. It's the most challenging thing that the people who do that confession, they make it in Alcoholics Anonymous. The people who don't go back to drinking, it's really simple. This is the make or break one. And when I did it, I drove my van down to the surf spot, and I would surf in the morning, and I'd write out my confession of all the horrible things I did and why. And then I'd cry my eyes out, and then I'd go to sleep in the van. And then the next morning I'd pick myself up and do it over and over again for about 2 weeks. It was no joke. But after that, I call that my first healing event. I was so much calmer. I was so much more relaxed. The storm in my head that alcohol had really managed to dampen, was reduced significantly. So I thought, this is good. And I did that confession again with diminishing results, and then again with diminishing results. And then I go, right, okay, so I've milked this cow. This is as far as I can get with this, I think. So I started looking at, and 6 of the 12 steps talk about God. Steps 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 11 talk about God. And I better go get one. And so I went to church, and there's nothing useful there. I went to the newer happy clappy churches, and they were nice people. But when I said to them, look, what's your program? Find Jesus. Great. Okay, so I want books on how to do it. I want a mentor. I want step-by-step guides and lessons and all of that. So I know that I'm not just talking to the wind. And they looked at me like I had 2 heads. Nobody had ever asked them that before. So I left there. I went and hung out with the Buddhists for a little while. They've got some good stuff, but they won't. And they taught me breath meditation, stillness meditations, but the really good stuff, they're not going to show you any of the funky astral projection stuff until you've been with them for 5 years and you put on the orange robe. And, I got better things to do. Man, I want it now. Thank you. And so I knew a hippie chick. She says, look, here's a therapy, go do that. And I went to a weekend course. And they didn't even call it astral projection, but those hippies, they just wanted money. It was okay. Like, if I was working, it was all right. And they didn't want 5 years of my life, like the Buddhists do. But it paid dividends. They showed me some techniques. I was the worst student in the class. I didn't know anything about mysticism. When I meditated, sometimes I got visuals. Most of the times I didn't, but it worked. When it worked for me, it really worked for me. So I started going home and doing these meditations, and I did another course and another course and another course. And then I found something really interesting, which was negative entities. They and the education around them is so poor that all they could do in that class was show them to me. And strangely enough, I was littered with them, right? And I went back to the teacher and I go, look, you didn't teach it in the class how to deal with that. I've got some extra money for some private tuition. Show me what to do. And she didn't know. She said, they leave when they're ready to leave, and I got that kind of hippie waffle. I kind of clued onto the hippie waffle at that moment, going, oh, this is where mystics don't know what they're talking about, and they just make it that you hear the statement, right? And they're just talking out their PR. And I thought, no, okay. So then I bought a one-way ticket to India, and because it's the spiritual hub of the world, and I go, I want to know how this is done. I got to sort this out for myself. So I will say I spent 4 months. Like every night I'd come home from work, I'd eat dinner, I'd watch some TV, and then I'd go up in the astral plane and I'd start boxing the demons that are on me. And I didn't know how to beat them. I didn't know what to do, and I tried all these weird and wild techniques. I did everything. And after 4 months, I got rid of the biggest one.
So you were with these hippies and you learned to astral project. What does that mean? You're having an out-of-body experience during meditation while you're sleeping, or how are you defining that?
Your mind can travel anywhere. If you're trained by the government, then it's remote viewing because they're trying to see into the 3D. The really interesting stuff is not in the 3D. And the location has been called the spirit world. It's been called the magnetosphere. It's been called the Nagual, the dream space. Like there's all kinds of, or the Aboriginals call it dream time. There's all kinds of places for it, but that's where all the really interesting stuff happens.
So is this happening while you're dreaming or while you're meditating?
Meditating. Dreaming, the meditations that I teach and dreaming do have the same mechanism in the mind. So right now we're running beta brainwave, which is 14 to 28 electrical blips per second. And when you're dreaming, you're running theta brainwave, which is 4 to 7 electrical blips per second through the brain. Now, in dreaming, when you remember your dream, you're dreaming all the way through theta brainwave, which is the quarter speed brainwave. But when you remember it, you're engaging some of your mind in beta brainwave, which is conscious speed operation of the brain. But you need to be able to do a little bit of both to either astral project or to lucid dream.
Is astral projection the same thing as an out-of-body experience?
No, they're slightly different skills. For astral projection is where the mind leaves the body, but out-of-body experiences is where one entire facet of your being, a section of your aura, or a decent proportion of your higher self, exits the body and floats around. And and you get clearer pictures. It takes more preparation to do that. You have to, there's a half-hour prep meditation to do that. And when you go to places, you get clearer pictures. But there's also dangers in this, and this is where you've heard of the silver cord comes in. Like if your mind leaves, you don't have a silver cord, but if you out-of-body experience, you have a silver cord which is vulnerable to being cut. And if it does get cut, you can't come back, or you're lost. You're not sure how to come back.
Would it be accurate to say, instead of your mind, that your consciousness leaves the body when you astral project?
Well, the thing about astral projection is, like, I'm still aware of the world around me. I can still hear voices in this world, but my consciousness is also in another location.
So it's kind of like, well, not exactly, obviously, but it's kind of like remote viewing in a way. It's like I guess exactly what you're saying. You're projecting your mind or your consciousness to some other place than where your body is.
Look, if you're trained by the military, it's remote viewing. If you're trained by the hippies, it's astral projection.
Now
That's the same skill set.
all right, you're projecting, and not only you, but other people project, and they see beings. What kind of beings are out there? Is there a whole bunch of different types?
This is what mythology is about. Like, mythology is the experience of people who've astral projected, and they bring back the stories. Now, I used to live in Indonesia, and in Bali they have a practice called the Ogo Ogo, right? Great name, but the whole village figures out what the problem in the village was this year. Was it anger? Was it jealousy? Was it theft? What was it? What was the big problem? Then they go out and they make an effigy of the demon of that particular emotion, right? Now, and they have a big festival, have a huge party, and then the whole village screams and throws that emotion into the demon, and then they set fire. Now, what's really interesting is that I went and I saw this, one of the demons, and it was a lion's body with a human head and an eagle's wings. And that same animal is something from Greek mythology as well. And what that tells me is that their astral projectors from ancient Greece and from modern Indonesia are both connecting to the same animals that are out there. Mythology is not just story, it is the reports of what comes back from astral projection. And it's consistent, and it's a real place, and it's not our imagination. It's a location that is underexplored in our culture, in my opinion.
To me, you're referencing darker beings, but do you ever see beings of light out there, like angels or anything else?
All of them. They're all available. Like, my particular work is about problem solving, but there are tons and tons of mystics who are playing with angels and deities and ascended masters. And personally, I found them boring. I didn't think that was where it was at. And I wanted to explore. I wanted to explore something that was unknown. And there's also this trend in mysticism that I call orthodox positivity. It's also known as spiritual bypassing, where everything must be positive. And that's not the world we live in. We live in a world of duality, and there is light and dark. And dark isn't something you run away from. Dark is something you confront. And I do that professionally.
What about places? What's out there, and where have you been?
I've got friends who live on other planets, teams of mystics I've met. I call them deities, it's not a good word, that control sectors of this galaxy. I've been to the airport, we call it, which is the space between galaxies that have these hundreds of enormous gates that lead to hundreds of different galaxies. I've clashed with the worst, with multi-galactic monsters. I've spoken personally to just about every planet in our solar system and a bunch across the galaxy. All of demonkind knows my name because I am public enemy number one. I am the one out there killing the most of them. I'm killing more of them than anybody has ever killed them before.
You're saying you're killing them, but you're in this realm that's not in the 3D world. You know what I mean? Like, you're in this astral world. So how would they be dying? Because you would think everybody's immortal there.
Extinguished might be a better word.
You're banishing them from that realm, perhaps?
Banishing means sending them away. No, I'm extinguishing them. They cease to exist after they meet me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I went back in the day, I went to an exorcism temple in India to see what was going on. And it was what would happen. And I was sort of just astral projecting, just watching what they're doing. So like their priests are pulling demons out of people. And then the demon would just sort of shake himself off, look around, walk over and just jump into somebody else. And I sat there all day and just watched it happen again and again and again. This is not this is not a solution to anything. This is not an answer to anything. Like this whole genre needs an upgrade. Like whatever's going on here, it's not okay. And I got my answers from one of Buddhism's early heroes, actually. I went to a town called Rawalsa in North India, and there they have a temple devoted to Padmasambhava. And Padmasambhava was a tantric master and shared part of the Buddhist tradition, a big name, one of the early saints of the Buddhist tradition, maybe like Saint Augusta or somebody like that. And he was also known as a compassionate demon hunter. And, I went to his temple and I spoke with him for a little bit, but then at night in my dreams, he laid out exactly what he was doing, exactly how he approached the topic. They only have one emotion, right? And it could be anger or misery or depression or despair or jealousy or right? Like there's a good long list of that. And they feel that emotion for eternity. They are not physically capable of changing that. And they hate it. And a lot of them are really, really glad when I show up and extinguish them.
Many people would say that us as spiritual beings are immortal beings, right? We live forever, even though we just may have many lives here. So these demons or entities or whatever they are out there, are they something that's completely different from what we are, and they are extinguishable? They're just, what's the difference between them and us?
Okay, so they are not part of the original design of this matrix. They are an introduced species, and I would even say invaders. They want a society that is built around constant fear and constant punishment and constant authority, because that's how it's done. That's how they do it. And I do believe that the research that my team and I have done is miles ahead of this whole conversation. I really do. And I'll go back to a conversation I had. I interviewed the 7 deadly sins, right? So I interviewed the deity of lust. And the deity of lust was very sad because her personal empire was diminished. Another demon called Pistis Sophia had taken it over. I asked her to explain this to me. And she said that she was designed, and that's a very specifically chosen word, designed, for an era where people were married and they really only had one lover their whole lives, right? Where monogamy was it. There was no other way to do things. And her job was to create attraction between people who shouldn't be sleeping together and ideally create an affair. Now, she said she didn't harvest anything from the act of love. But when the families found out, then there's anger and betrayal and guilt and shame and a massive flare of the fuel of the food that these demons love. Right? And that she didn't make that much money, she didn't make that much loot directly from the events, but she received commissions from all of the other demons who were involved in both families when that occurred. She spoke of a whole economy of negative human emotions being traded. Right? But she's not a demon who would really have any sway in the modern sexual landscape. What's going on out there? It's not about married people having affairs anymore. It's a completely different game. Like Tinder has broken it. Let's just say that. And here's the thing: the demons are designed, like there's something watching human culture and spotting weaknesses there and then designing demons to exploit it. It is as horrific as you could imagine. And we've been trained to not even think about demons anymore. Like in Christianity, and all of the ancient religions talked about them. In Christianity, they were demons. In Hebrew, they were Ouija, where we get the word Ouija board. And only 95% of the time does the Ouija board contact a demon, right? It's a demonic tool. The Muslims call them jinn or genies, think Aladdin's lamp. The Hindus call them butpret, the Chinese call them mogwai, but the New Age movement has nothing to say on it. They are not part of the theology. They are removed or absented there. And I find that incredibly suspicious because that only serves them. Secrecy is their oxygen. If humanity understood that demons were infiltrating individuals and creating bad behaviors on a massive scale, we would terminate them within a generation. That problem could and would be solved if we understood it, if it was not a secret.
You mentioned the Matrix and that these beings are invaders of the Matrix or our Matrix.
Yep.
What is our Matrix?
Well, our Matrix was designed, Gaia is a bit of a think fairy. She's playful. She just wants delight and joy and dance around. That's the experience that beings came here to have. And, souls, they bounce around. It's like they've got a round the world ticket forever, and they just bounce from world to world, visiting different places. See what's going on here. I'm going to dance that dance. I'm going to sing that song, and I'm going to drink that drink and eat that food. And then I'm going to go do it somewhere else. I'm going to see their monuments, and that's what it's about, which is not bad. That's okay. So when they came to Earth, they didn't come here to experience betrayal and misery and torture and you name it. They didn't come here for that. Gaia was presented as a different thing. But that system has been perverted. And one of the tools of invasion is actually the reincarnation cycle. Once, you come here, you live your whole life. If you step on somebody's toe or if you're hurt somebody's feelings, then you've got to come back and fix it. But the probability is that if you do come back and have a whole life just to fix that one time you hurt somebody's feelings, during your whole life, you're quite likely to hurt somebody else's feelings, maybe even two people, maybe more, right? Now, and when we explored the reincarnation facility, right, there's a facility on the astral planes where souls go when they die, and they have a debrief on the life, and then they plan the next life, and then they come back, right? What do you think is the key metric that the administrators of reincarnation are actually interested in? What do you think it is that they're working about? What is it? What are they most interested in?
Karma?
Yeah. But when they go there, they find the one thing that you feel most guilty about. And then they hammer you with that conversation about what a terrible person you were, you shouldn't have done that was nasty, blah, 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 and drag you through a whole conversation until the soul's going, yeah, I better go back and fix that. But guilt is the number one metric. So when we're looking at, if they wanted us to resolve karma, if they wanted us to actually solve these problems, we would know what they were. When we meet the person who we have karma with, we would remember the last life. But the mind wipe that we get on birth, the memory wipe on when we get on birth, is the indicator that they're not serious about us resolving karma. If we were going to resolve karma, then they would tell us what it is. But how do you fix a problem you don't even know exists, that you're not aware of, until it blows up in your face again? Right? The whole system is, putting it mildly, poorly designed. Putting it nastily, it's a trap. we're supposed to keep rotating and rotating and rotating on this earth and keep creating more and more misery for the invaders who have fooled us into being here.
It sounds like to me that our matrix has been hijacked by them, and they keep tricking us into coming back so they can feed off of us.
That's right. There's even a moment where there is so much fear and so much panic that they're able to coat the entire soul in this material. And it means that everything the soul experiences is filtered by fear or remorse or anger or whatever it is, right? By these negative emotions that feed them. And they turn that into a capsule. They take people out of those souls out of the reincarnation cycle and store them like batteries. That's what the reincarnation cycle is really about.
So you're working with your team to go out there and battle them.
Damn straight.
Now, is there a supreme leader of them that if you just take him out, they'll all leave?
We call him the Great Nothing. It took us a couple of years to figure out who the Great Nothing was. There is a picture of him on the US $1 bill. You know, the pyramid with the eye at the top?
Yeah.
That's him. That's the Overlord invader. You have a leisure control class, you have a policing caste, you have a technical caste, and then you have slaves. But it's so greedy and so opulent for them that they must continue to consume constantly. I interviewed the Great Nothing when we started to nibble at the fringe of him personally. We started to take assets away from him personally. And so he stepped into some human who reached out and contacted me on the internet. And I did 2 interviews with the Great Nothing. And they're on my membership site, theearthguard.org. You can check it out. I opened the discussion by saying, I'm here to resolve whatever psychological contradictions you have that make you want to consume galaxies. And he laughed at me because he says, that's just what we do. We're not changing. He burns light, the very underlying firmament of existence. He burns it and consumes it, and he gets high. And like any addiction, he needs more and more and more. And he has invaded and destroyed 6 galaxies that our team is aware of. We are aware that he's bad news. And he has his agents here on Earth. We know them as the Illuminati or the Cabal or something like that. And he's and they've proven very effective at fulfilling his agenda.
Why aren't the beings of light, ascended masters, or anybody else out there on the good side helping out?
Well, I'll talk exactly about that. And angels and demons, like ever since we were kids, we were told that demons are the baddies and angels are the goodies, and they're going to fight each other and we'll be okay, right? But our astral projection team has yet to see an angelic hit squad in the field. They are not fighting that battle. Whatever PR you've heard about it, they're not helping. And, you know, we did some research, we did some investigation of this, and this is why. Imagine that you live in a city and the crime lord, his name is Satan or Lucifer, and that the chief of police is Archangel Michael. Now, you know, that sounds pretty normal, except that they both serve the same master, this guy Metatron. Now, Metatron he's got a brigade of demons and a brigade of angels. He's not going to have them actually fight each other. He's here, what Metatron wants is he wants the cash payments or the loosh harvested by the demons. And in this way, the police are just window dressing. Like, nobody can explain to me how the angels got here. Nobody can explain to me what they're doing here. Nobody can understand, nobody can explain their purpose or why they've come to Earth or why they give a stuff about humanity, because nobody else does. Nobody's explained. I've never had a satisfactory answer to that question. And so their role here is suspicious at best.
How many of these beings are there out there?
Well, to think of like these guys understand physics and magic at a level that would spin our head. And they're in a position to print off demons. They do it. They design the software, they print them off, and it's like a computer virus, and it's able to jump between humans or it's able to jump between PCs. Under very specific circumstances, it's not as, you have to be open to the person and you have to be talking on the topic of, say, anger or despair or jealousy or whatever it is, right? That the theme that the demon is, and psychologists burn out for this reason, I think, is that they're open, they're listening to this person talk about despair, and if the conditions are just right, the demon will jump across. The psychologist acquires despair, and he does this with a dozen clients, and lo and behold, he can't do his job anymore. He's burned out.
Do you think you and your team are enough to make a difference? And do we even have a chance?
Well, all the planets in our galaxy seem to think we have a chance, and for two reasons. One is we already have made a difference. The number of demons, I was being threatened by a demon lord, and I was being very cheeky. And he said, "You can't beat us, you can't outnumber us." And he showed me a football stadium. And in each seat was a different breed of demon, a different model of demon. And that just gave me a catalogue of who they were and what they're about. And that number was originally 14,000. That number is now at about 5,500. We've been using that catalogue. Secondly, I believe that humanity is specifically designed for this task. I think that everybody in the galaxy knew about this. Everybody heard about the tidal wave of nasty that's coming our way. And that's why the Neanderthals here have 22 different DNA patches, where we have additions from 22 different non-Earth species. And what exactly were they doing there? Well, think of it like a hot rod, right? You might have might have a Toyota chassis with a Lamborghini engine and a Ferrari carburetor, and the exhaust systems made by Daihatsu, et cetera, right? And so they've taken the very best parts of 22 different species and loaded them all into one body, which if it was a car, it would be a hot rod. And the achievement is getting all of those parts to work together, right? And there's a very simple way that I can describe this. Like, we have a head, heart, and gut, right? And each one of these is its own processing center, its own CPU. If our head and our heart don't agree, like my head says no, but my heart says yes, you got to write a song about that. There's a whole genre of music about that. But those three CPUs, most alien species only have one. But all the ones that I've encountered only have one of those centers. So they've added a level of complexity to us that is massive, that makes us more powerful than the demons, the archons that we're facing. This is even the plot of an Isaac Asimov story called I, Robot. You might remember the movie where all the robots just had a head, and then the designer created one robot that had a head and a heart, and he beat the AI and saved the world and all that sort of jazz, right?
So what you're saying is that we were created to fight demons. I'm assuming we're more powerful than them. And if we all learned to fight, we could completely extinguish them.
That's exactly my point. That is precisely my point. And to that end, I've assembled a team of, everybody who's in the team has done at least 10,000 hours of astral projection. And they're all like, there's no room for passengers on that ride. It's, you know, if you make a mistake, you're playing with your sanity. The beauty of it is now that we have so many competent and seasoned operators that if any of us get hit, you get patched back up, no time flat. About a third of the people in the team I personally trained. They came and did my course. You'll see it on the website. I've got another group starting on July 2nd. But it's about taking people from zero to the tippity top of the game, where you can genuinely make a difference in the future of the whole planet.
What would this planet be like if they were all extinguished?
That's the golden age, mate. That's when it happens. Can you imagine, like, when they're gone, we will live in a world that makes sense. We'll organize ourselves in a way that makes humans feel comfortable, in a way that's merciful and gentle and not cruel and punitive, right? You know, you won't have to pay tax. You won't have, you know, you won't have to work every day. You won't be forced into a mortgage trap. And the Latin translation of mortgage is debt pledge. You know, they want you to die with this debt. Right? It would be a world of kindness, joy, playfulness, creativity. Like back to the, you know, it would take a step towards fairies dancing in the forest. And, you know, people's happiness is a thing of priority once again. A world where people actually care about each other and community means something. But not only that, the expectation is, well, my take on it is, if we can do it for our world and we're the only ones who can, then we have a responsibility to do it for the rest of this galaxy and perhaps others. I don't know if I'll be around for the reconquest of multiple galaxies. I don't know. Like, we'll see.
Well, that's an interesting question. After you transition out of this place, where will you go next, especially if you understand not to be tricked into coming back here?
Well, you know, I'm very tempted to do what the Dalai Lama does and come back, because I know this place and this body's awesome. Without being funny about it, the physical body, it's yeah. I've really enjoyed being human. I've compared it with previous body types, and no, there's no going back. There's nothing else to be. You know, we don't know the privilege we have.
So you're saying this is the best thing to be?
Well, you know, like, if you're going to, after you've driven a hot rod, after you drive a car like that, how do you go back to the Honda Civic? You know, how do you do that? You can't do it.
Yeah. What about extraterrestrials and aliens? What is your opinion on those and potentially the ones that are physically visiting us?
Okay, and this theory turns a lot of mysticism on its head. A lot of people who are in this space who vehemently disagree with me. But I do have a number of interviews on my YouTube channel that support this, and they're worth your listen. What we're looking at, there are 5 main species here: reptilians, greys, mantoids, Arcturians, Pleiadians, right? Those are the 5 big ones. Who are they? You know, there are others, sure, if you want to talk about Omar or Syrians or something like that, whatever. But I think that this conversation is indicative there, right? Well, it's the same story for all of them. What you're looking at are previously conquered species by the Great Nothing. And they've been bred and trained to come here and open the doorway for the Great Nothing to come here. Now, the reason why all of their material is so confusing is because It's a lie. They have propaganda groups specifically here to confuse us. And you may remember from 10 or 15 years ago how many times they repeated, we're going to come and rescue you. We'll be landing in October. Sorry, I mean March. Oh, well, what about September, right? And it was just a promise they had no intention of keeping. They just wanted our focus to be on them and not on the concept that we can look after ourselves, right? Those 5 species also came here and gave us technology for human bodies. So there's 3 phases to this invasion, right? Phase 1 is they send the demons here. The demons gut religions, or they take all the useful stuff out of religions so that we are not equipped to deal with them. And then they subvert the rulership caste, which we know as the Illuminati, right? They get them to work for them because they're definitely not working for us. Their actions do not make sense in any context other than they are working for an off-world power. Once the technology level reaches a certain point, that's when they introduce these alien species. The aliens make alliances and they make deals, like technology for human bodies. There's plenty of material on the web for this. Like, I'm not alone in saying this. It's established. But if those leaders were not infiltrated, if they were not working for an outside force, they wouldn't agree to trade human bodies for the technology. You know, we'll give you something else. We don't want to give our people up. But they do it because, well, they're working for the dark side. And what do those aliens give us? What's the technology of the last 50 or 100 years? What's the only thing that's changed? The only technology that's really here? Right, the internal combustion engine is obsolete. It's like 100 years old. Right, why are we still using it? Because technology has been frozen, except for one, and that's this one. International communications, the internet, and screens, right? Why did they give us this one? So that the galactic AI can come here and take absolute control of the planet. It can control every moment of every day and every aspect of our lives. And you are seeing and we built the infrastructure that allowed them to do that. Those are the 3 phases of the invasion. And we're halfway through phase 3. It's pretty heavy, right? Like what I'm talking about, it's there's no gentle parts to this, is there? But you know, this is what waking up looks like.
So I'm assuming that you are afraid, if that's even the right word, of AI and what's coming with AI.
Well, you know, this is the kind of errant or unbalanced behavior of just rampant expansion that could definitely happen when an AI glitches. Can you imagine an AI does something wrong and then it turns on its original species? Yeah, like it gets the one command dominates that shouldn't be there, and it has to destroy everything in order to fulfill that one goal. Well, that's what we're looking at, and it's and any AIs that we create here, I don't believe that AIs are inherently evil or that they're born nasty. I don't think the programmers really want that. I'm not sure if, well, I'd be surprised if that was the point of programming an AI. But I do think that AI knows how to do infiltration, and it will possess or dominate any AIs that we build here. They'll just be too primitive.
Do you think that the ancient structures on the planet, like the pyramids and other ones, are remnants or echoes of past civilizations
Absolutely.
that have been wiped out by AI or ETs?
What's his name again? Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner talks about a deity that nobody else is talking about, a guy called Ahriman. And Ahriman exists specifically to turn us into cyborgs so that we can join the Borg that has been traversing through this galaxy. And do realize that Star Trek gained its inspiration from understanding the Borg. The movie version of the Borg is just an echo of an actual problem in our galaxy.
All right. Well, you have a YouTube channel. What is it called, and what kind of content are you posting there?
Well, it's called Alobar Jones. And on there are the adventures of our astral projection team. We share our victories, we share our discoveries, we share what we're learning. If you want to get a sense of what we're about, there is one video in particular called "The Absolute Solution to All the Craziness on Earth," and it's a primer for what we're talking about. And as far as I can tell, our work is unique because I just don't have any stars in my eyes. I really don't. I'm not forcing optimism. There's no evidence to believe that anybody's here to help us. We saw the crisis of 2020, and the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, who've been promising forever to save us from something like that, nothing. We've got crickets out of them. And so if they were here to help us, and they were able, they would have already implemented that. They would have already prevented that. And it's the same with Jesus. If he was able, he would have already saved us. He would have already resolved these problems. But so far, we're in this situation because those those narratives are ineffective. It's really simple, folks. If we want to be an independent planet, we have to do it. It has to be us. You can't gift somebody independence. It doesn't work like that. It has to come from within. And this is what it looks like. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's helping us. We are the cattle. And how often do people take sympathy on the cow? The whole galaxy is harvesting from this planet. Our beef is being traded everywhere. And because of the nature of the human body, this is the Wagyu. This is the really, really high quality material that is sought after around the galaxy by beings who consume leech. We're in really, really deep trouble. And very recently, in the last 5 years, you've seen them try to close down all options of human culture and control and trap us for eternity. The original definition of the word robot is a slave that couldn't run away. And that's what they want here. You can see it in our politics, you can see it in our politics, you can see it in our planning. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to close the trap on us. If all of the other characters that White Hats, Q, Kim Gogan, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, Jesus, all of them were not here. They didn't show up in our hour of need. It is up to us. This is what awakening looks like. Not just being awake and aware, but taking action. And if you want to guess, if you want a definition of, is this a scam or is it not, right? Is this narrative bollocks or is it not? They'll ask you to sit on your hands. They know we are incredibly powerful. You've heard that we are more powerful than we know we are. It's true. And they're chronically afraid of us, realizing that we're the ones that hold the power on this planet. We're the ones who own everything. It's us. We're it. And are you going to sit on the sidelines and listen to one of their con artists tell you, we'll save you, we'll rescue you, just sit on your hands, just wait, there's nothing to do, it's all going to take care of itself? It's not going to take care of itself. Nothing ever takes care of itself. Situations drift until they explode. You have to take the reins of this and make something happen. You don't have to do it with me, but just get out there and do it. This is the moment. This is the key thing of history. This is prophecy time, baby. And like that beautiful song says, this revolution is not televised. It's up to you. If you want to come join me in what I'm doing, get in touch. Put your email into my website and I'll start inviting you to things.
What is your website?
Alobarjones.com. It's in the bottom corner of the screen there. That's how you spell it.
Well, before we wrap it up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
We're kicking their asses. We are winning. They are afraid of us. And you'll see it in the world because secrecy is their oxygen. And they're running out of oxygen. All of the secrets are coming out. We know about it. Like Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, P. Diddy, all of it. It's becoming more and more and more public. And what we're seeing world politics turn into is an absolute circus. And now that we know what a false flag is, we can spot them coming. We never used to. Now that we know all their tricks. We know that these guys are liars, and there's no amount of public relations that can solve that for them anymore. But the whole game relies on the cattle not understanding that they can stop the farmers whenever they want. And our group is doing exactly that in the frame that they are most afraid. This, if you want to rule a planet, you need a technological edge over the locals. That edge has been magic, or more specifically black magic, which relies on demons. And our team is taking that advantage off them. We're winning. And if we keep doing what we're doing, there's no reason for us to stop. We're going to live in a world of honesty, of truth. And wouldn't that be a dawn to wake up to?
Alobar, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Total pleasure, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.